warned about you. They said that just one look and I'd get caught too. 'Cause there's something about you.
Okay guys, so welcome to today's video, and as you can probably see, I've come down to, it's featured quite a lot in a few of my recent vlogs, Hollymore Forest, and this is an absolute goldmine of locations to shoot in the autumn time. And what I thought I would come down today and do is just have a little bit of a scout around, look for a few new compositions, and also then share a few of my tips with you guys on, I guess, what I consider, what I think about when I'm shooting autumn images, and hopefully maybe share a few tips that will help you take better images this autumn. So first composition I've set up, I'm a little indecisive as to whether I want to shoot it in portrait or landscape, but we have this absolutely amazing, two amazing trees. One of them is turning this really lovely golden orange colour, and in my foreground I then have this beautiful, really nice curve in just down in the water here, which is making a really nice, interesting foreground. So I'm just trying to work out if I want to shoot it in portrait or shoot it in landscape format. The only issue I have with shooting it in a portrait format is that there's quite a bright section of sky just up in the top right hand corner, and if I was to use a grad to try and pull back the highlights, what I'm doing is actually darkening down a lot of the trees. So I think if I want to shoot it in portrait format, I'm going to have to bracket the exposure just so that there's not this big crazy bright section of sky that's going to kind of distract a little bit from the shot. But I'm just playing about a little bit with the portrait and landscape, and I think the first one I'm going to do a landscape composition to start with. So I'm in a little bit of a predicament here because I actually prefer the portrait composition, because I prefer the fact that I get more of the trees in the shot, because there's two trees here and they're an amazing shape. I also get a little bit more of the orange colour. The only problem is the part of the sky. So I think I'm going to have to just bracket my exposures and try and blend them together afterwards, because at the minute the sky is just so distracting. So it's actually really surprising. I have literally moved, I reckon, about 4 foot to the right hand side, and I've now found my composition has changed dramatically. And the key thing here is that I'm actually avoiding that bright part of the sky. So down in the bottom left now I have this little swirl of water. It's almost like a little mini waterfall. And then one of the really amazing twisted trees I've now put up onto the top right of the frame. And then we've got the top of the frame kind of anchored by this lovely autumnal colour. Now this would be amazing still to shoot probably in a couple of weeks' time, but at the minute I actually think it's quite nice because I'm getting a really nice mixture of, there's still green, but there's also some lovely yellows and oranges coming down through. But it is amazing how much a difference just moving literally about 4 feet to one side has made in the composition. Now, one of the top tips I want to share whenever I'm shooting autumn colour is that I always use a circular polarizer. Now, I've talked about this on some of my other videos, but especially when it comes to autumn, I don't want any kind of light or water reflecting off any of the beautiful autumn colours. So by using a polarizer, I'm going to cut through all that glare. But not only that, it's going to give a real boost to the colours. So all the greens and the yellows and the oranges and the reds are going to become much more vibrant. And also it's going to add more contrast to the scene. Because what you don't want is kind of like a washed out image. And you don't want to be getting it back home and finding that all your colours are actually washed out. So the one filter, and probably the top tip when I'm actually shooting autumn, is to use a circular polarizer. So just to very quickly talk about my setup here, my exposure settings. I'm shooting in around about 3.5, 4 seconds, f16 ISO 100. And as I say, I have the polarizer on. I actually don't have any need for any other filters, any other ND filters. I had an ND on just a minute or two ago just to see what kind of shutter speeds I was getting, but I was just getting too long the shutter speed. So pretty happy with 4 seconds It's still allowing us to keep a nice little bit of detail in the water movement. I'm just going to grab one more shot here, and then I think I'll maybe move on to the next composition. So one other tip I want to share as well is when you're shooting autumn, don't always think of the big wide vistas. Look at all this here, this amazing bracken that I'm surrounded by. Look at the more intimate landscapes because it's just a feast of colour. Now one of the things I would love to do is shoot lots of little abstracts of this here, picking out details, picking out colours, and also why not try a little bit of ICM. So if you've never tried it before, ICM is an intentional camera movement. So what you do is you move your camera as you're taking your exposure. So typically I would try something in and around from about half a second, maybe to a second, a couple of seconds, and just move your camera. And what you're going to find is colours like this here, it's just going to create a really, really nice, cool kind of abstract effect, which if you're putting a little autumn portfolio together, that will be the kind of thing would be a really, really nice addition to it. Okay, so one of the other things, sorry, I'm just going to try to move to my next location. One of the other things I would suggest as well to, I guess, give you a different view of your autumn shots is to use a longer lens. So typically something like a 24-70 or 70-200, that kind of thing. And try and maybe isolate trees, isolate colour. Look carefully at your compositions and don't be scared, or don't feel that you always have to be shooting at like f11 or f16 and have everything in focus. If you have a beautiful woodland area with lots of lovely autumnal colours and maybe some mist coming through, why not try and shoot the scene at about f2.8 or f4 and really maybe isolate some nice shapes in the trees and then throw the rest of the background out of focus. I think these are the kind of mornings where you're looking at the forecast and you're hoping for maybe a little bit of frost, or even like a little bit of mist hovering over some water or coming through your local woodland. So yeah, definitely keep checking the forecast as well. Check it before you go to bed. That's a big one because it can change so much, and I know sometimes I have missed a lot of opportunities because I checked it in the evening time and then it didn't show any kind of drop in temperature, and then I didn't check it before I went to bed, and then I got up the next morning and the whole place was just covered in fog and mist. So think about your lens choice. Don't always shoot wide. Try something with just a little bit more reach and maybe try and isolate a few different subjects. So I'm going to head down to another spot which is called Foley's Bridge. Now this is probably one of my favourite places to shoot in Tullymore. I've shot it loads of times and I keep getting drawn back to it year after year, and probably once you see it you'll know why. So I'm going to go down probably more as a scouting mission here because I think I'm still too early for the colours, but we'll go down and have a look and see what it's like. So I had a quick look at Foley's Bridge, nowhere near being ready to shoot, so I didn't even bother taking any shots. But I think I have found another composition almost beside it. Another little piece of advice is to look up. Now, I've never actually seen this shot before. I've seen this tree on numerous occasions, but the colours just up above it are absolutely amazing. And sometimes I find when I take the drone up, you might think that in the forest there's not actually an awful lot of colour, but once you take the drone up and get up above and look down in, you can see that the tops of the trees, there's so much colour. even though it maybe hasn't filtered its way down into the forest. So that's what I've done here. I found this amazing tree. It is absolutely beautiful. Big, it must be hundreds of years old. And I've got down quite low to the ground and I'm shooting just right up into it. And what I'm trying to do is actually shoot up into the leaves. And the branches of this thing are just snaking up towards the sky. It's absolutely beautiful. So I'm going to bracket my exposures because obviously because I'm shooting up into the sky, there's bits of it are wanting to blow out. So I'm shooting a 2-second exposure, f/16. Again, I've just got the polarizer on just to make sure that I get as much colour and take as much glare off the bark and off the leaves as I can. I'm just focusing on the tree, and I might actually do one down at like f4 and just focus on the tree just to see what it comes out like. So it's just the first bracketed shot, and then it's going to take another shot 2 stops over and then 1 2 stops under. So this is composition that is, it's a little bit frustrating, this shot. I was here a couple of weeks ago and there just wasn't enough water coming down the waterfall. What we have is we've got this beautiful waterfall in the distance on the other side of the arch, then we have this lovely arch bridge and then this other little stream just down in here. So we've got quite a lot of layers in the shot. Now, the way I've framed it up, I put the arch up in the top right hand corner and then we've got this beautiful leading line down here. Now it's these old twigs and it looks like kind of dead twigs and sticks and leaves, and they're on these rocks that are leading the eye just diagonally towards the bridge and towards the waterfall. I'm just not sure that the colours, it just seems to lack something, but I'm going to take the shot because I think maybe even more as a reference shot for coming back. I want to come back here maybe in a couple of weeks time when I think it might be a little bit better. But I've just got the circular polarizers. This is the Nissi landscape polarizer. f/16, getting around about 3 seconds of a shutter speed, and I'm just making sure that I don't blow out any of the highlights in the water. And one other thing, I'm not sure if you can see, but there's a lovely fern that's getting a little bit of light just on the left hand side, and I have it just up in the left hand corner. Just adds a really nice boost of colour. I'm just checking my focus in case I need to stack, because this bit here is quite close to the front of the lens, but it seems okay at f/16. So I'm going to grab another shot. It's just one of those shots I'm not completely sure about, so I think I'm going to give up on this shot. It's a bit frustrating, to be honest, because it's a really, really nice shot. It is a beautiful shot, a really nice composition, but just conditions were not right today. And I think that's the thing with photography, is sometimes you've got to just cut your losses. Do you know what? If the conditions aren't right, you are probably wasting your time. So I reckon I'm going to head back downriver. Maybe one more shot to do, and I think I'll call it a day. But yeah, kind of go back to the tips I was talking about for autumn. And one other thing is, don't be scared to shoot in a mixture of lighting conditions. Now, I love shooting when light is really, really flat and it's really cloudy, especially if I'm shooting waterfalls or something that has water in it, because there's nothing worse than having a scene and you're maybe shooting a waterfall and half of the waterfall is getting hit by harsh sunlight and the other half is in the shadow. It just looks awful. So I would say if you're going to go out and shoot waterfalls, perhaps try and shoot them on a cloudy day. But if you're going out as well, just into the woodland, don't be scared to use the light, backlight your trees. So just shoot up into them, try and get some nice sun flares coming down, maybe some nice rim lighting on some autumnal leaves. Sorry, I'm just looking around here because the light is coming out. I'm trying to find some nice isolated trees. But yeah, so don't be scared to perhaps, you know, shoot in different lighting conditions. You don't always have to wait for amazing golden hour light to shoot really good autumn shots. And probably one, I guess, final tip would be to change your perspective. Now, what I mean by that is if you can get up above a forest, or you can get up maybe with a drone and kind of look down on the autumn colours. As I said earlier, sometimes in the forest you can think there's maybe not an awful lot of autumn colour, but whenever you actually fly the drone up and you see the tops of the trees, then you realise, wow, there's so much colour here. So, you know, maybe if you can get up a mountainside overlooking a forest and maybe shoot something with a long lens, so you're almost shooting along the tops of the trees. Or, as I say, if you have a drone, that would just be perfect, because then you can fly it up, kind of tilt it right down and just shoot down onto the trees, and it's going to give a really, really different perspective in your autumn photography. So yeah, as I say, I think I'm going to head back down, maybe try one more composition and see how it's looking. Okay, so the other shot I was thinking about did not work, so I think I'm going to call it a day. As I say, just good to be out for, I guess, more of a scouting mission than anything, and hopefully the tips that I've shared will help you take better autumnal photos. Now, one other thing I wanted to say is, when it comes to autumn, persistence is key. Do you know, 2 or 3 days can make a massive difference to the autumn colours. So don't be dejected, don't be disappointed if you head to a location and the colours aren't just right yet. If you're able to, get back, give it maybe 3 or 4 days and head back down. And again, if they're not right and you're able to, head back again. Some of the locations I come to here, and I think last year I came to the one spot maybe 4 times in the autumn and finally got it in the colours that I wanted. So, you know, it changes from year to year. So just stick at it, keep going back, and most of all, enjoy it. That's the main thing. So as always, guys, thanks so much for watching. I'm not massive into doing plugs for things like this, but if you do fancy supporting the channel, and obviously every little helps in conditions like lockdown and all that sort of stuff, where I'm not actually able to go out and do as much work as I would like to. So yeah, I have some Lightroom presets. They're priced at $9.99 for the pack. So if you need maybe a little bit of guidance or a little bit of help with your editing, feel free to check them out. I'll drop a link to them below, and if you can support me, that would be amazing. But yeah, as always, thanks for watching. Make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I will see you in the next video.